Greetings, everyone. Welcome to our third installment of our Herbal Happy Hour. It is Thursday. What is it, April? Yeah, April 16th, 2020. We are in the middle of a worldwide pandemic, and we're having a happy hour. So I hope you are ready to partake in this really, really tasty recipe. I am your host, Angelique Sobande Greer. I'm visionary and founder of the NCB School of Herbalism and Holistic Health, one of the oldest African American herbal schools in the South. We are a little more than 25 years old, and Sacred Waters Retreat for women of color, and the Afro-Botany Immersion and Certification Program, which is held every August in beautiful and sunny Costa Rica. Don't we all wish we were in Costa Rica? What about now? So I want to welcome you. If you are new to the Herbal Happy Hour, thank you for coming in. I hope you brought your big bills, because Herbal Happy Hour, we have strippers that come to the Herbal Happy Hour. And tonight on the stage is Juicy Juniper and her friend, Luscious Lavender. So we're going to bring those two herbs to the stage. I'm going to show you how to make a nice tasty mocktail or a cocktail using these traditional herbs. We're going to discuss some of their uses, some of their cultural norms, and some of their medicinal properties. And you can go and look online and on any of our social media platforms and check out our recipe. If you want to download the recipe and make drink, I am curious to see what kind of drinks you make, or if you put a spin on your drink. So let's do some submissions. If you've been with us the last 3 weeks, submit your drink, and let's have a little herbal cocktail contest. That just came to me. That's new, y'all. That wasn't planned. That was a new thought. Bing. For those of you who are old, you've been with us for the last weeks, thank you for returning. It is my pleasure to come to you every Thursday afternoon at 6 p.m. because 6 p.m. somewhere in the world, usually happy hour starts at 4 or 5 o'clock, maybe 3, depending on where you are. When we're in Costa Rica, every day and every hour is kind of like happy hour. So thank you for tuning in, taking some time out of your schedule. People think because it's quarantine and people are at home that there's nothing to do. But actually, you probably have more to do than your regular schedule. So I want to make sure that I thank each and every one of you tuning in, because you could be doing something else like sleep or sleeping, but you're not. You're tuned into this Herbal Happy Hour. So I want to thank you for that. So today we're going to be using a few different ingredients. Remember, our herbal strippers today are Juniper and Luscious Lavender. What I've taken the opportunity to do is I prep the simple syrup that we're going to be using, our Juniper simple syrup. So today's ingredients, I thought it was going to be a brown liquor. For all of you that tuned in last week, I thought we had brown liquor in this week's drink, but I'm jumping ahead of myself. We are still using our white alcohol. So today we're going to be using our Amsterdam gin. You can use your gin of choice. I prefer Amsterdam because it is smooth. Like I've said in the past, smooth in, smooth out. Me no like hot in, hot out. Me no like burn down, burn out. So I would prefer that you use this recipe with a wind down. If you were going to do a shot of this, you'd be okay. I wouldn't suggest any moonshine or anything like that, because you're going to destroy Juicy Juniper. We want to kind of hold intact her medicinal properties, and she likes a smooth brother. And it just happens to be gin, this particular gin. And then we are also going to be using, or I've used, you can use your honey of choice. I use this raw dark wildflower honey. I think this one from Sam's. So, you know, just make sure it's a local honey or organic honey. I would not suggest the little honey that comes in the B container because that's just sugar and flavoring. I would highly suggest that if you make this drink that you use real honey, if you can get it. If you can't, then use the honey that's in the little honey bear, you know, the little honey bear thing. Once again, I will say too that remember all the ingredients that you combine with your medicinal herbs help to bring out the flavor and the properties of the herb. So you want to use the best ingredients you can, or you know, at least what you can afford if you're going to make this drink. And then, of course, I always have pre-juiced lemons. I just fill this up every week. We never use all of this lemon juice, but this is about 4 or 5 lemons, freshly squeezed. You won't use all of this in this drink. It's usually about a ½ ounce to an ounce, but we've got our fresh lemon juice. And then, of course, we have our juniper berries. I don't know if you can see that. Are pretty tiny. I don't know if you can see that in my hand. They're pretty tiny, juniper berries, if you're unfamiliar with juniper berries. And juniper berries really don't have a lot of fragrance. The berries don't. The wood, the tree does, has a slightly aromatic a scent to it. So juniper trees, the juniper wood burns really, really well and has really good properties for smudging. There are some traditions and some cultures that use the juniper wood for smudging. So, but we're going to be, of course, using the berries today. So you're going to need your juniper berries. And of course, you're going to need your lavender. This is, she's a new budding plant. So she is definitely very, very fragrant. She did not appreciate the little cold spell we had last night. And, you know, I didn't know that we were going to have a cold spell. So I went out this morning and she was like this, kind of cringed up. And I was like, oh, I'm going to have to nurture you back to health because we've got to have our lavender together. Lavender is a pretty resilient plant, but you definitely want to be delicate with your lavender plant. Now, if you don't have fresh lavender, I mean, you don't have a lavender plant, you can always order lavender buds or lavender petals. You can order those. Most online herb shops and stores carry those. There may also be a local store that carries lavender. I had someone ask me if you could use lavender oil in this drink. I don't know. Personally, I wouldn't try the lavender oil. I guess it would work the same, but I'm not sure. So my disclaimer is don't fool with the lavender oil. Go with the real lavender plant or order some fresh lavender buds, okay? So your ingredients, you've got your ingredient list. You know you know how we're gonna do this. We're gonna make our juniper simple syrup first. So if you're not familiar with making a simple syrup, it's really easy, which is why they call it a simple syrup. This particular formula requires you to have a small saucepan. You do 1 cup of water, 1 cup of juniper berries, and you bring that to a boil. Now, I boiled these juniper berries about 30 minutes. You can boil them longer if you want to, or you can boil them less. I say the longer you boil them, the stronger your syrup will be. And as you can see in this bottle, this syrup is pretty dark. And this is only after 30 minutes of a boil. So I boiled the juniper berries for about 30 minutes, and then I turned the heat down from high to about 6. And I added sprigs of lavender, fresh lavender, along with 1 cup of sugar. Just regular old white, table white, store-bought sugar. If you are diabetic, this is always my health disclaimer. If you are diabetic or you have a pre-existing health condition, my advice to you is to seek the source that's going to be most natural and most integrative for your pancreas and your for your overall health, but especially for your pancreas. You don't want your pancreas processing too many sugars, because then that sends your diabetes into overdrive. So you can use any alternative. You can use turbinado sugar. You can use organic cane. You know, you can use any of the sugar substitutes. I am not sure about using stevia. I have not made this drink with stevia. I don't know how stevia would hold up in the heat of the boil or in the simmer. So that would be something that someone could probably try. If you wanted to try a little bit, you didn't want to, you know, use up all your good juniper berries, you could try a smaller portion of that and maybe possibly try to see if stevia is your sweetener of choice. So once I turned that heat down and I added the sprigs of lavender, I added the sugar, I just stirred that pot, that little saucepan, until the sugar completely dissolved. And then I turned the heat down to about 3. And I let it just kind of marinate, everything inside the pot. I am going to say at this point, you should have the smell and the color of the juniper berries. You should have the smell of the juniper berries, and you should also have the smell of your fresh lavender. If you don't have or see any of those things, you are working with dead plant material, and I would advise you to try again. You just wasted some sugar and some berries. Wherever you got all of that, it wasn't a good source. So I'm going to always tell you that you should always follow your nose and your eyes. Let your 5 senses be your guide when you're working with plants. If you're really in tune with plants, you'll do a little dance, you'll sing a little song, you'll do a little meditative prayer before you even begin working with those plants. And generally those plants will tell you, yeah, we're pretty good, or we're excellent, we're trash. So if you don't smell the lavender, you don't see the color of the juniper berry in the water, like I said, you're definitely not working with good plant material. So after turning that heat off, I let it sit another 15 minutes on the stove just to get slightly cooled down. Now, of course, it's syrupy, it's hot, it's a little thick. You don't want to make it too thick, because you definitely want to make sure that you can funnel all of this good liquid. So you don't want to make it too thick, but you don't want to make it too runny. It needs to be like a syrup, which is why we call it a simple syrup. Once you've let that cool top, pour it into a glass, not a plastic container, but pour it into a glass container. This is I think this is a 4 ounce. I think this is a 4 ounce bottle. I think this is a 4 ounce bottle. But as you can see, it made 1 cup of berries, 1 cup of sugar, and 1 cup of water. My recipe made a 4 ounce bottle. Now, the recipe that you're going to download is slightly different, just because most people have never made this drink, but I can normally eye mine, and I don't need the recipe. So it fills up a 4 ounce bottle if you do 1, 1, and 1. All right. Once you get from the saucepan, you can do it several ways. I have a small funnel and a strainer. So I put my funnel in and my strainer, and I pour, and the berries all fall in, and the lavender falls in, and I strain all of that out, and I have my final product, which is this really beautiful caramel colored juniper berry simple syrup. Oh, I forgot an ingredient. Make sure you add your honey. Make sure you add your honey when you add the sugar and the lavender. I forgot about that. Make sure you add your honey. The recipe that you'll find online says 1/3 cup of honey. I did not use that much honey because we use a lot of sugar. And although my husband is a sugarhead, he loves sugar. Sugar is his first food. He loves it. I didn't want to make the drink so sweet, because I'm definitely just not that sweet. My palate can't take overabundance of sweetness. So I didn't want to make the simple syrup super sweet, which means I would have to pour in more gin. So, well, that could be a good thing if you want more gin in your drink. So I used less than a third of a cup of honey. I didn't use the third cup. So you can even taste the simple syrup before you put your honey in. If you think it's going to be too sweet or not sweet enough, and then add a little honey as you go. That would probably be my best suggestion. Add a little honey as you go and get it to your liking. Now remember, if you're going to be serving this for yourself, then that's cool. Make it as sweet or non-sweet as you like. But if this is going to be a mocktail, you're going to have after quarantine turn up, whatever you're going to do, you may want to consider other people's palates and not make it so sweet. Or maybe you want to make it super sweet and just make them have, a coma. You want to make them go into comatose, sugar comatose or something. I don't know. Whatever the case is, do what you like. But I would suggest that you definitely make sure you add the honey a little as you go. All right. So after adding your honey, you can take your jar and put it in the freezer. Now, don't forget it. Don't be a forgetful person during this quarantine. You're just forgetting about everything. Everything's just gone to hell in a handbag. You forgot about everything, and this thing burst in your freezer, and now you have a sticky brown juniper berry mess. That's not going to be cute. And if you got kids, you'll probably make your kids clean it up. We don't have any little kids at home, so it's either got to be me and a kin, and probably it's going to be me, because if I were the one to break. Okay, never mind. That's a sidebar. Anyway, make sure you're watching your bottle in the freezer. You don't want it to freeze. You just want to cool it down. All right. And your next step is the easiest step. You're going to grab your 2 glasses. We have our A and our G. Ding, ding. It's like the Price is Right. And you want to start with your gin. Now, make sure if you have your ABC license and you can pour, then pour. But if you don't have your ABC license and your eyes kind of jump or twitch, or maybe one eye is bigger than the other, well, all of our eyes, one eye is bigger than the other, but you know what I'm saying, and you really can't pour this straight, I would suggest that you use a good old pourer. Use a pourer. Use your shot pourer. So the small size is the 1 ounce. The big size is the 2 ounce. Tonight, we are always going for the big bowl Amsterdam gin. We are going with 1 ounce, a 1 ounce shot of lemon juice. One ounce shot of lemon juice. Oh, and by the way, this lemon juice, make it as tart or non-tart as you like. The thing about this lemon juice and the juniper berry syrup is that they mix really, really well together. But you don't necessarily have to use this much lemon juice. All right. And then you want to go with your simple syrup. Uh-oh. I put that top on there a little tighter than I thought. All right. So we're going to go with a 2 ounce pour of the simple syrup. And then you want to top this with some Perrier water. 1 second. Our other ingredient, I didn't have it up here, I forgot. So you can use soda water for this. We prefer Perrier water for this drink because it has a really good sparkle and buzz. And as you know, if you've been tuning in these last 2 weeks, I am liquor bougie. So I prefer the spritzer water, this particular brand, but you don't have to use this brand. I mean, we have other brands in here. You know, if I had the other brand, I'd use that too. So you can use any brand of sparkling water to do this. Okay, so now that you've poured your simple syrup in, I'm gonna leave the top off of this just in case. We need more of the simple syrup, and remember, it's going to be to taste. And I'm gonna add that. I'm gonna open this one. I'm gonna go about midway. And I'm gonna add some ice. You can either add the ice, or the recipe says you can pour all of the ingredients into your drink shaker, and you can do it that way. You can just shake it up and pour, but I'm gonna do it the opposite way. Juniper berries have a really good flavor to them. And if you've never used them medicinally for anything, and this is going to be your first time using them, I highly suggest that you start looking at the traditional ways to use juniper berry medicinally. Really, really, really has some really, really good properties. All right. G, A, everybody, come on up to the bar. Drinks on the house, happy hour. It's the Herbal Happy Hour, and we're serving up juicy juniper and luscious lavender. That's pretty refreshing. That's pretty good. Now, I want to say this. For me, this is just enough sweet with just enough tart. For someone else, they may want to add just a smidget more of the syrup. And if you like the tart, then of course you want to add a little bit more of the lemon water. I want you also to notice that I did not use a full can of the soda water, just because you'll water it down. You only want to, especially if you're using a drink glass like this, you only want to go about midway with the drink. If you want to be really fancy, schmancy, fabulous, and I am a little, like I said, a little liquor bougie, you can use a martini glass, and then you can, inside your martini glass, you can top your drink with a few additional juniper berries. All right? Hashtag liquor bougie. I don't know if you can see those berries in there, but they're floating, and they look really pretty in a martini glass. So disclaimer though, just like last week, make sure you tell your guests exactly what's floating around in their glass. Last week it was some fresh herbs, and it could have appeared like you were serving someone out of a dirty glass. This week you look in your glass and you've got these little berries that could look like little pellets of some sort. And you don't want anybody to think you're serving them anything else other than something healthy. So make sure you tell your guests what type of drink you're making, so when they get this, they won't think that there's something else putting in this glass. All right? Tell them Sobande. Okay? Cheers. Nice, nice, nice. Make sure you download this recipe. I'm telling you, this is a nice evening setting out on the patio, watching the sunset with your cigar or your cigarillo or your blunt or your edible, whatever it is you like. Maybe you don't like anything. You can just sit with your drink and have your drink. If you wanted to enjoy this drink as a mocktail, guess what? Don't add the gin. Every other ingredient is yours. Just do not add the gin and you have a herbal mocktail. All right, so now let's look at what juniper berry and lavender does for the body. So what I'm going to do, you all know how this goes, the old ones, you old heads on here, you know how this goes. I'm gonna ask my audience, is there anybody out there watching who knows any medicinal properties or benefits of juniper berry that you would like to share? Remember, this is happy hour, so this is not a classroom environment. We're at the bar, we're at the club, we're at the strip club. So free drinks on the house, and you've got to see two great strippers come to the stage, Luscious Lavender and Juicy Juniper. So you can tell me something about both of these lovely ladies. Anybody want to take a stab? Just unmute your mic or raise your hand, and our tech guru will see you and get to you. Somebody give me what you know about juniper. Go ahead and Google it. Anybody? Nobody? Nobody want to talk about juniper? Oh, she's very, very appalled. She's very appalled. She all dressed up, came out here on a Thursday night. You know, she's got her stimulus check. She could have been anywhere in the world, but she's here with you all. And you all don't even care enough about her to say how you feel. Juniper berry. No? Nobody still? Okay. So let me give you a few pointers about juniper berry. So the symbolism behind the juniper tree or the juniper berries itself is for purification and healing. Purification and healing. The juniper berry, it grows all over the northern hemisphere. You can find it everywhere, the juniper tree, all over the hemisphere. Now these berries I showed you earlier, they're really kind of small. They look like pellets. For those of you who didn't see them earlier, they look like pellets, and they're really dark. They're almost, some of them are almost black, like a deep purple or a black. So these are dried. These are not the fresh berries. These are dried berries. I have used fresh juniper berries when I was living in Amsterdam once, and those are even more delectable in a drink like this. But most of the time, you know, people just not growing a juniper tree in their yard. So if you get dried berries, that's perfectly all right. These berries, though, are connected to good health and healing, and they also have been linked with animals and aphrodisiacs, fertility, fortune, seeks, love, protection, and strength. However, there is a more powerful symbolism found within the juniper tree. And the symbolism is fire. Remember earlier I talked about the juniper wood being a really wood to use if you wanted to purify something. Some people use pieces of juniper wood wrapped in their sage, or they would burn juniper wood like they would Palo Santo, if you're familiar with Palo Santo. So the wood itself gets really smoky, and it does purify the atmosphere, or it will purify a room, or it will purify a person. It does have some medicinal properties that are antibacterial. So it would actually work really well. It's like nature's Lysol, all right? So the element that is the strongest for juniper berry is in the fire of the wood, and burning the wood of the juniper wood. Now, when we look at the juniper tree, or we look at the purification that comes from the juniper wood, there are a lot of cleansing rituals that have been used in centuries past, to include the Bible. We're going to talk about where juniper shows up in the Bible. Juniper has been used to remove evil spirits and to protect them all, protect all the people, you know, after you've removed the evil spirits. There's some cultures that will go by your house prior to Easter with juniper wood, and they will like smudge the outside of your homes. You know, they're like walking processionals, and they're carrying juniper smudge sticks, and they just kind of, you know, bless and purify the homes. And it's a before Easter ritual in some cultures. Juniper also is involved not only in purification but protection. So it makes it very popular for people who do initiations and ceremonies. Juniper is also a great herb to welcome a fresh start. Like if you just want a fresh start energetically, fresh start, bring some juniper into your home. Put some juniper in your in your sacred space or on your altar. Put some juniper berries. You can also, I mean, you can actually leave the juniper berries on the, if you can get them like this, leave them on the actual leaf, on the branch. You can take the branch, you know, kind of, if you're crafty, you can make like almost a wreath or a fan or a broom, a juniper broom for that, and you could put those behind the corners of your doors. Wherever someone walks in and out, you can put juniper brooms or juniper wreaths. You can use all of that as a way of protecting your home and the people who live there. In traditional medicines, juniper twigs and needles were burned to provide healing for the sick. And it was believed that they warded off infection. Now, remember earlier I said that juniper has some medicinal properties. It has a lot of medicinal properties, but one of the biggest one is that it is an antibacterial agent. So when you burn it, it's like your natural Lysol. So if someone is sick and you're burning juniper berry wood in their vicinity, it will help dispel the sickness in the air. Now, of course, that hasn't been FDA approved or sanctioned by any official, but believe me, plants have been around before man could walk or think or create anything. So I think the plants know exactly what they're doing. I think I want to believe the plants before I believe what man has to say about plants, all right? So you can use that as your natural Lysol. Juniper berries are also found in a lot of people's dreams. One of the most substantial connections to the metaphysical world using juniper is through the portal of your dreams, and has played a long role in the use of dreaming. So to dream of the tree itself, how would you know you're dreaming of a juniper berry tree? Well, first of all, I know what the juniper berry tree looks like. Google the juniper berry tree and see what it looks like. Maybe you've seen it before and you just didn't know what it was. So Google the juniper berry tree, take a look at it. If that tree happens to show up in your dream, it is seen as profoundly unlucky, believe it or not. To dream of the tree is unlucky, particularly for those who are suffering from illness. Now that's kind of like a faux pas. Like, you know, like why would the berries, I mean, why would the wood to smudge you and dispel the sickness, but to dream of it would be the opposite? I don't know. That's why they call it folklore. It's not for you to believe or not believe. It just is. It has its own scientific basis, is what I'm saying. However, dreaming of gathering or collecting juniper berries can tell of coming prosperity to you and your community. So remember, if you dream of a juniper berry tree, that may not be a good sign. But if you dream of gathering or collecting the berries, or even someone giving you the berries, that's definitely a good sign of prosperity that's coming to you and your community. Also, dreaming of the berries just by themselves. You don't see any leaves, just the berries. You see the berries just by themselves. And possibly in your hand or in a basket, speaks of the future of your success. It just speaks about, you know, how successful you may be. I try to keep juniper berries. I had to get some because I was out. I thought I had them and they were gone. I used the last batch I had. So juniper berries are like a rabbit's foot, a lucky rabbit's foot. Other symbolic meanings. Well, juniper berries around the world, when we talk about the Irish, Europeans, Scottish cultures, they really have a lot of spiritual and symbolic meanings when it comes to using juniper. But in the Bible, there are 10 known occurrences of juniper mentioned in the Bible. That's right, plants of the Bible. I'm currently working on a lecture series about plants in the Bible and going a little deeper into the scripture about how plants and the healing of plants and what God deemed for these plants and how they moved through the Bible and helped the people. So yeah, these 10 occurrences of juniper in the Bible is really spectacular when you think about it. Now, the one occurrence that I particularly like in the Bible talks about how juniper was a symbol to the Canaanites, and the Canaanites were worshiping at this particular time in the Bible. They were worshiping a fertility goddess known as Asherah or Asarte. And this was in the region of Syria. So in the Bible's Old Testament, juniper had an angelic presence, and it sheltered the prophet Elijah from Queen Jezebel's pursuit. You know, if you're familiar with some of the Bible stories, Jezebel, you know, if somebody says, if an older person says, you ain't nothing but an old Jezebel, well, they definitely saying you're not, they're not saying anything good about you. They're calling you a little hoe-ish, maybe, possibly. You little Jezebel. Yeah, I know somebody out there has heard an old person say, that Jezebel, you know, when they talk about some, you was listening in on the conversation when you was little. You was supposed to have been in the room playing with the other kids, but you was listening. Yeah, and that old Jezebel. Okay, sidebar. I got carried away. But juniper was supposed to have been the berries itself were supposed to be from delivered from an angel, and it was a protector. The berries, they use it as a protector. And Elijah, it was given to Elijah in the Bible to protect him from Jezebel's pursuit of him. She was hot on his tail. She was trying to get him. She was a cougar. She was trying to snatch him up. He was like, get back. I got juniper berries on me. No, I don't know what he said. Maybe, you know, you can only imagine. Use your imagination. You never know. So that's the one that I really, that's one of the ones that I really like. There's also a story in the Bible where juniper berry was used with the baby Jesus and his parents, and when they were being hidden from King Herod's soldiers by a juniper plant. Like the plant hid, like the plant, the story, you know, is like the plant covered them, or it sheltered them, it shielded them. The way I kind of interpret it is that, or I see it in my mind's eye, is that the plant emitted this energetic ray or wall of protection around them, and people looking at them couldn't see. They were right there in front of them, but they couldn't see them. Almost like a shape-shifting, like juniper berry almost shape-shifted to protect them. So this story is in the Bible as well. Also, it's also known for its culinary and medicinal properties, along with its ritualistic properties. And actually, this is probably known best for its cultural properties. The first two things of these properties relate to the fact that Juniper berry has it has a fleshy, it's like a fleshy cone. And I don't really know how to describe that without really being able to show it to you. I don't really have, I thought I was going to have some residual pieces of that in the bag of berries that I purchased, but I didn't. So this fleshy cone, it takes about 2 years to mature and grow. And then once it matures and it grows, you can crush it down or you can grind it down and you can use it that way. It's kind of like, it reminds me of peppercorn. If you have used real peppercorn, it will remind you of peppercorn. It can be as hard as peppercorn, but sometimes, or of course, if you're using the fresh berries, it won't be as hard as peppercorn, but the dry ones will generally be as hard as peppercorn. So that's about the closest description as I can get is black peppercorn. So in Scotland and in England, they use the berries. They used it in sauces. They made a juniper sauce, and they put over their game, the meat that they would capture and kill and cook. Now, if let's talk about Scotland and England and talk about the medicines or the herbs and spices that they did have access to. I don't know how tasty the meat would have been in those centuries, but I can only imagine that it would have probably been kind of bland, depending on who's cooking. Maybe if a woman was preparing the meat and she had a vast knowledge of using herbs and culinary spices, she may be able to doctor up, whatever the traditional meat was in those regions. But using a juniper berry sauce laden with herbs and spices is a delectable treat. I haven't made that sauce since before my children were born. And talking about it makes me think about something I probably want to try maybe this summer over some lamb chops. I might do some lamb chops. Juniper berry sauce is also good over asparagus. If you'd like to make a sauce and try it over asparagus, you could do a juniper sauce. You would make it similar like this, similar to this simple syrup. The difference is you would not add as much sugar, and you would want to add other herbs. Other herbs that work good with juniper berry include rosemary and thyme. Work really, really good with this. You could also do juniper berry and dill if you wanted to do something that's fish. If you wanted to do, seafood, you could do juniper berry and dill. Makes a really tasty sauce. So what was I saying? Oh, Scotland and England. Those are the places that use the juniper berry sauce a lot for their meats. Now, when we talk about using juniper berry in the 19th century, we get more into the traditional uses still in these same regions: Europe, Scotland, England. They were using juniper berry soaked in gin, which is our recipe for tonight. The difference is that they use big vats of juniper berries, and they soak the gin in the juniper berries for months in barns. And so when they got that gin out for a party, it was on and popping. Those berries really gave the gin lots and lots of flavor. In Sweden, they also like to use juniper berries. They mix it with barley. I don't know if any of you eat barley, or maybe you eat a whole grain cereal that has barley in it. But barley mixed with a little juniper berry syrup in your oatmeal could also be a great addition to the way you use the culinary and medicinal properties of juniper berry in just a regular dish. You could just make steel cut oatmeal. That was a tongue twister. Steel cut oatmeal And instead of using your traditional sugar or your maple syrup or whatever it is that you use to sweeten your oatmeal, you could use your juniper berry syrup in your oatmeal. It would definitely give your oatmeal a lot of flavor. Also, too, juniper berry and raisins taste good together too. I haven't tried it with cran raisins, but I've had juniper berries mixed with raisins. That's pretty good. What else do I want to tell you about juniper berry? I think that's it about juniper berry. We're going to move over to lavender. But before we do that, I'm going to take a commercial break and have a sip. You should never waste good alcohol, especially during a happy hour. Everybody come up to the bar and get a free drink. Drinks on me, drinks on the house. Does anybody have any questions? Any hands? Anything interesting? Anything you want to add to juniper berry's history, to the science of juniper berry, to the medicinal side of juniper berry, to the biblical side of juniper berry? Anybody? Anybody? No? 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 Okay. Let's move into lavender. Now look, lavender is an easy herb. I say easy because it's most common. And it's most common because lots of people like it. They like the smell of lavender, the fragrance of lavender, the way lavender makes you feel. Ooh, it's wispy, right? The fairies, oh, lavender. Lavender's gained lots of popularity over the last 5 years. 25 years ago, when I got fully into the game of herbalism, you know, lavender, people were like, oh, lavender. Yeah, yeah, that old thing, that old rag. Yeah, she's okay. Now everybody's riding lavender's tip. Everybody wants lavender. Lavender oil. Has anybody ever made lavender tea cookies, sugar cookies? Now, listen, I don't bake, but there was a time that I used to make some lavender sugar cookies. And baby, those things are good. Have it with lavender tea. You have your little fairy and dragon tea party with your girlfriend. That's what we could have using your lavender. I also used to make lavender sachets, and I would put those in my pillowcase so that when you lay your head down, poof, you get the fragrance of lavender. Lavender definitely helps you to relax. It does relax the central nervous system. It has lots of medicinal properties in it to help activate the central nervous system. I've had a few teachers in the past who take lavender and put it on. They take the extract and they'll add it to the essential oil. Excuse me, I said the extract. The essential oil. They'll add it to cotton balls, and then they'll take those cotton balls underneath the desk of their rowdy children at school, and their kids, their whole mood will shift. Take the rowdiest child and try it. Maybe you are the rowdy child. Maybe you should be sniffing have your little lavender bracelet or something. Maybe you need lavender necklaces. It definitely will calm and soothe the savage soul. Lavender in your diffuser is a great way to go. If you have insomnia, put some lavender oil in your diffuser. And guess what? We're in this quarantine period. A lot of you are suffering from anxiety and fear, and you're all wound up and you're tighter than a tiger. Get you some lavender oil and diffuse it through your house. And if you don't have a diffuser, let's do it the old-fashioned way. Granny would take a pot, put it on the stove, a little saucepan with a little water in it. She let it boil, and then she drop in the flour. But you've bougied up, so now you have the extract, you have the essential oil. Put 5 to 7 drops of oil in the water. Turn that water off, and then set that pan somewhere in your house. You could even set it over the radiator where your heat comes out or your air condition comes out, and that will fill the room with the lavender fragrance. You don't have to have a diffuser. There's an old school way of doing this thing and still getting the healing from it. So what else does lavender do? Lavender has antiseptic properties as well as antibacterial properties. Lavender can be used topically on the skin for mosquito bites and little things that go bump in the night, you can, use a little lavender oil on your skin. Lavender oil is really good in most things, but I would suggest that you always do a skin patch test first, because you never know what you're allergic to. Lavender oil is also good for the nails, skin, and hair. So lavender oil is found in a lot of products today. It stimulates your scalp. It gets the blood moving, makes the blood go to the surface, so it stimulates hair growth. You can use lavender for a myriad of things. I do want to talk about the biblical uses of lavender. These herbs are turned up in the Bible a lot. It's one of the most ancient documented plants too. Let me point that out as well. And when I talk about the most ancient documented plants, I'm talking about dating back to Egyptian times. Lavender is found in the hieroglyphic text on the walls of the pyramids. Lavender, they're talking about the lavender flower. Lavender was also employed in the use of when the first tampons. Did you know that the first tampons were made by Egyptian women? Did you know that? Did you know that the first pregnancy test, Egyptian women? Yeah, they did that. They knew that if they peed on a bag of barley and the barley sprouted so many days afterwards, they knew they had what was called an enzyme in your urine, and that signaled that you were pregnant. Yeah, that was a pregnancy test. Pee on barley. Try it sometimes. After this quarantine, some of y'all gonna be pregnant. All these spring buddies gonna be popping up and popping out next spring. But I'm 50, so I'm gonna sit back and watch all of you give birth to your babies. Now, it might not be physical babies. Don't get your panties in the water. It might not be you might not be giving birth to a real baby. But during this quarantine period, you should be giving birth to something. You should be figuring out something. Get still. Sit down. Figure out what's going on. Give birth to something during this quarantine period. This is the I will show up and do my work. Yeah? No? Okay. Anyway, let's back to lavender. I'm getting on my pedestal there. So we were talking about lavender in the Bible. So lavender has its roots. The deepest roots that I've been able to find has been in Egypt. They use lavender in their embalming. The Egyptians use the lavender in their embalming formula. And it makes sense to me. One, it's antiseptic, and two, it's fragrant. So you're talking about a decaying body. So it would cleanse the body, one, and then it would help the smell of the body as it's changing. So they use it for that. They use it in the making of their tampons. The women did, and then they also use it in their salves and ointments, just topically. Salves and ointments. You can do that. You can use lavender in any type of homemade salve or ointment. Just be mindful, like I said, make sure you do a skin patch test on yourself or on your children or anybody that you're giving that product away or you're selling it to. You might want to put a disclaimer on there that you need to do a skin patch test, because you never know what people are allergic to. And if you make it strong for you, it may be too strong for someone else. It's always my rule of thumb. The Bible, when we talk about herbs in the Bible, when we talk about lavender in the Bible, I want to mention that they call it spikenard in the Bible. Spikenard, SPIKENARD. That's lavender. It's the same plant, and it's from the Greek name. It's the Greek name. Spikenard is the Greek name for lavender. Okay, just in case you didn't know that. It appears throughout the Bible, most often associated with this amazing scent Of course, it was prized by the ancient people. It was often transformed into a costly, exclusive perfume. The Greeks loved lavender. They were funky, so I hear. You didn't get that from me, though. That's what I heard. It was just something I heard, that the Greeks didn't smell that well back in those times, and they were not very clean. And so they used a lot of heavy perfumes to cover up their unsanitary conditions. And lavender was one of them. But lavender was so expensive, the oil was, only the Caesar and only the high echelon people could afford lavender oil. There's one story about them putting lavender oil drops in their bathroom basins. I don't know if you've ever seen any of the movies that feature what the Greeks were doing, and they go and they sit in this room it's the bathroom, and they sit on the slab, and then it goes down to wherever it goes. But they would often the lower class people were the ones who had to tend to all of that waste, and so they would put lavender oil into the septic tanks to prevent it from fumigating the city so bad. So lavender oil was definitely used for that in ancient Greece. And then the mention of it in the Bible, I'm going to read to you the text. It says, "Then took Mary a pound of ointment of spikenard, very costly, and anointed the feet of Jesus and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the odor of the ointment." That comes from Gospel John 12:3. Look at there. Herbs of the Bible. Herbs are everywhere. People think this herbs just turned up. It's just new. It's new stuff. No, these plants have been here forever and ever and ever, way before the Bible. Herbs are in every ancient text. No matter what you study, there are going to be some plants. They're going to have magical, spiritual, physical, and emotional properties. So you should always make sure that when you're working with these plants, you know exactly what you're working with. You like lavender because it smells good, but what does it do for you emotionally? What does it do for you physically? How does it help you spiritually? What has the plant come to show you, or what is the plant going to do for you? How is the plant going to integrate itself into your life? And how are you going to become one with the plant? You should be asking these questions. There are a few other passages in the Bible that refer to how lavender got its powerful and wonderful scent. It's believed that the lavender plant was taken from the Garden of Eden by Adam and Eve. However, it was not until the Virgin Mary laid the infant Jesus' clothes onto a lavender bush to dry that the scent was bestowed upon the plant. That's a great story. That's a great story. I could see that in my mind's eye when I was reading that. I could see that happen. You didn't know that the plant was there, and you laid something on it, and then because you touched it, it activated its aromatic, scent. And you were like, wow, I could see that happening. So remember, lavender is spikenard. So wherever you see spikenard, they're talking about lavender, and it can be found in the Bible. The other thing that I didn't mention that I want to say I'm going to go back to juniper really quick, and then I'm going to take some questions. There are 5 emerging benefits of juniper berries that I forgot to mention. I'm sorry. Juniper berry is definitely great to use. Spikenard, Spikenard, spikenard. It's one word, but spikenard. Juniper is used for digestive problems, including an upset stomach. So you can mix juniper and ginger, juniper and peppermint, or juniper and mint together if you wanted to have something that was going to aid in digestion. It's also good for those who have a lot of gas. I see some of y'all out there. I know y'all got gassy booties, flatulence, poop. Excuse me. I know how y'all do. Gassy booties. You need some juniper. And you probably need some foods that are less gassy. I'm just going to say, you probably need more foods that are less gassy. But juniper berry is good for flatulence and gas. It's also good if a person has lost their appetite. You could boil juniper berries and the take the water or make the tea, and you could administer the tea to them, and that would help increase their appetite. Someone who's lost their appetite. You know what it makes me think about? It makes me think about this COVID-19. You know, they're saying some people lose their taste and their smell. And of course they're not eating because it's hard for them to breathe. So juniper water would probably be a good way to rehydrate and bring the appetite back slowly, so that, you know, your metabolism is working in order. But the 5 emerging benefits of juniper berries is that it's high in nutrients and powerful plant compounds. It also provides anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects. So if you have any type of immune auto disorder where, you know, your joints become inflamed, or, you know, inflammation begins in the gut, everyone, and good gut health reduces your chances of inflammation. So if you are finding that your body is inflamed, you need more good things in the gut, more probiotics, things that cool down the fire. That's fire in the gut. Inflammation is fire. So you want to cool that down. You want to settle that down. So juniper water or juniper tea is a good anti-inflammatory. You could also mix juniper with your turmeric and a little black pepper. Turmeric and black pepper work in conjunction together. One activates the other. It's like vitamin C and D. One activates the other. So you can drink turmeric, but if you're not drinking it, if it doesn't have any black pepper in it, you're really not getting the full anti-inflammatory effects of turmeric. So you could add turmeric to your juniper water and drink that down, or make a tea from it. It would definitely help cool down the fire that's going on in your gut, that sends the response out to the rest of the body to, you know, to swell up, to flame. It also has anti-diabetic properties as well. Remember at the beginning, I told you to add your syrup when we were making our simple syrup, that if you were diabetical, that you may want to go easy on the sugar and the honey that you add to this to make the syrup. Now you can make the syrup, but just don't make it over sweet. You're actually doing a disservice to the juniper berry, who has the medicinal properties of the berry is anti-diabetic effect. So if you're putting more and more sugar into the juniper berries, you know, you got it. You got the picture? I don't have to explain it. You got it. Take a drink. Okay. Now, when we talk about heart health, we really want to talk about juniper berries, because juniper berries really promotes cardiovascular health in any form. I would highly suggest a juniper extract if you want to make your own. There are plenty of ways and styles and methods to do it. Find a method that fits you and make yourself an extract and do a juniper extract. If you want to do tea, you'd have to get a lot of tea in order to have some cardiovascular results. And now listen, don't get me wrong. This is not going to save you. Juniper berry, along with everything else that you employ in your life, will help save your cardiovascular health. It will help tune that up, you know, your cardiovascular health. So juniper berries are not the save-all herb. None of these herbs are, but they know what they're doing if you know what you're doing with yourself. And then the last 2 top properties of juniper berry, we talked about inflammation of the joints, but it really is beneficial for those who have arthritis. So juniper berry should be in your life if you have any form of arthritis. All right. And that's because it has all the compounds, you know, to really reduce the flame that's going on in your gut. And then the last one is that, and I said this earlier too, it's antibacterial. I didn't say it's antifungal, but antibacterial and highly antifungal. That makes me think of someone with like a jock itch or athlete's foot. If you could make a tea from the herb itself, and then put it into a mister or a spray bottle. You could spray that onto the affected area. You know what? I would probably add tea tree oil to that just to turn up the volume on that a little bit, and you'd probably have a really good concoction. You may want to add a little vodka just to preserve it, but you could make your own antifungal spray if you wanted to. I also, the spirit just said to me, that would be good in the scalp. Juniper berry, the water, and the tea tree oil, and a little bit of vodka as a preservative. If you could probably make like a dry scalp spray, you know, if you had a yeasty scalp or bad dandruff. I don't know how it works on dandruff. Somebody try it. Let me know. Okay. Other than that, I think I've covered everything on both of those herbs. I know I probably missed a lot, but you know, that's what you all are for. What the hell you tuning into if you don't know anything about these herbs? I told you, Google it. Like, this is a classroom. We're just, you know, we're having fun. We're just shooting the breeze. We're all sitting in the strip club. The strippers are done. They went to change their clothes. They're coming back out for another session. Get your bills ready. I'm coming around with my hat so I can collect. They have rent to pay. Their stimulus check came yesterday, but they've already been out to Walmart buying TVs and foolish mess with their stimulus checks. What kind of lavender and juniper sisters? You see what happens when they run together? Take a drink. Now, so does anybody have any questions? Can I get everybody's mic on? And unless you have a lot of noise going on, don't turn your mic on. If your background's quiet, you can turn your mic on. And let's take some questions or some suggestions or just some comments. Who's talking? Who I got? I can't see anybody. So who's on the line? Who tuned in today? Who do I have? Nobody? I don't have anybody on the line? Who do I have? I can't see. So who do I have? Nobody?
Hello.
Who's that?
Bullies.
Bullies!
Yeah.
What you doing, cutie pie?
I'm good. I'm here. Listening in.
Okay. All right.
Taking things in.
Did you have any huh?
I have some juniper bundle that I like to burn. Yeah. I love juniper.
You have it in a bundle?
Yeah, because I'm a Sag. And juniper is ruled by Jupiter. So I like to keep plants ruled by their, or at least plants and their rulerships in my space. So I keep juniper and her berries.
Can you show everyone your bundle? Do you have it close by?
I have it. Let me get it. It's right here. It's been burnt. I don't know if you can see. I have no lighting in here.
Is it what's it mixed with?
It's just strictly juniper. I harvested it, like, you know, I like to go on walks. I'm in Florida, so it's the weather permits us to be able to like go outside often. So I go out and do my little walks, and if I connect, and I grab and give. And I was inclined to take this, like, I think at the top of this year, take some springs, and I made some bundles, and I keep some on my altar just to burn and just to keep in my space. I love juniper berry, like, you know, taste wise, it's delicious. I love making.
Have you had it in a drink before?
I've just made tea. I've never made a syrup or anything like that. So I'm really excited to I'm gonna like really try that out because I love to bake. So I can only imagine that like on top of some yummy cake, a lemon cake or a lavender cake. Oh my gosh. So yeah.
Let me know how that comes out, and then if it turns out well, you post the recipe for us.
Oh yeah, I'll do that. Totally.
Yeah, that'd be great to share.
Yeah. So yeah, I love juniper and lavender.
Yeah, they're good together. They're really, really good plants together. Does anybody else have anything with juniper and lavender? No? No, nobody has anything with juniper and lavender? Okay. Well, if you all don't have anything, I'm going to say these last final notes. Next week, I don't know who we have coming to the stage. Um, our social media director will post the recipe, and then I'll know, and I'll be like, oh yeah, it's her. So I'm going to just say that next week's recipe will also be just as tasty and delicious as this one was. I really would suggest that that at some point you try all 5 of these recipes that we have featured for the month of April. We've got 2 more coming up, so try them at some point and see which one really sticks out for you, which one really sets it apart for you, either as a mocktail or a cocktail. And fine tune your garden party or your gatherings after this quarantine period is over. Do something different. Make it an all herbal thing. You can make it an all herbal thing. You can have your little croissants and cakes and tasty treats. There are some culinary dishes that you can make with some of these herbs that are super tasty. So you can make it a whole little herbal theme and have your cocktails and your mocktails. It'd be better. It'd be better to have all of those combined. Gina says that next week is always bet on black. Oh, that's going to be a good one. Always bet on black. I hope that you will tune in to next week's Herbal Happy Hour. If you're not busy, if you can take some time out of your schedule to be with us. Also, next Wednesday is our podcast, Seed, Soil, and Soul. And we will be discussing how to cope with compassion, whatever that means to you, or however you do that for yourself and others. And especially during times like this, how are you coping with compassion? Are you being gentle and easy on yourself, or are you being bitchy with yourself in a bitchy time? This is a bitchy time. So the last thing you really need to be doing is being an extra bitch. Just be nice, be gentle, be easy with yourself, those people you say you love, and those people even that you don't love. Be easy. Cope with compassion. I promise you the universe will give that compassion back to you tenfold. You won't even recognize the energy that you've put out once it comes back. Otherwise, you can tune in to this video replay on our YouTube channel, Sacred Waters Retreat. The videos for the podcast this week and this Herbal Happy Hour will be up sometimes during the weekend, maybe Sunday, maybe earlier. Just keep looking on the page and see when it goes up. If you haven't subscribed, we'd ask that you subscribe, like, and share. You can leave a comment. We definitely like for you to leave your recipes for us or anything that you've tried with these recipes that you've altered, or any additional things that you've made with these ideas. I hope this Herbal Happy Hour has sparked the creativity in you, that you can use herbs in so many other ways other than what that you traditionally know. Again, I am your host, Angelique Sobande Greer. I'm the visionary and founder of the NCB School of Herbalism and Holistic Health, and the Sacred Waters Retreat for Women of Color, and the Afro-Botany Immersion and Certification Program held every year in beautiful Costa Rica. I hope that you will join us on one of our 3 platforms on IG, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you haven't seen any of our work, go ask somebody. I appreciate all of you. I love each and every one of you, and I will see you next Wednesday for Seed, Soil, and Soul. Bye, everybody.